Good morning, America. Monster winter storm. At least 20 states under a state of emergency. Nearly half of America on winter weather alerts. Hazardous travel conditions, roads turned into ice rinks, tractor trailers colliding.
This is just turning back to ice.
More than 250,000 people forced to face brutal cold without power this morning, and the massive air travel troubles in what's expected to be one of the worst days in U.S. aviation history for weather-related flight cancellations.
We had to leave our vacation a day and a half early, so that's kind of frustrating.
The storm's impact far from over, set to slam the Northeast with up to a foot of snow. GMA's team coverage tracking the path from start to finish of this dangerous storm. And who's in the bullseye today? Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z joins us to break it all down.
Breaking overnight, deadly shooting. A federal agent shoots and kills a U.S. citizen in Minneapolis in a struggle on the street in a city already shaken by the fatal shooting of Renee Good.
I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem insisting the agent fired defensive shots.
This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
The questions being raised about the shooting and what we're learning about 37-year-old Alex Preddy, his family speaking out.
As protests erupt across the country, the shooting igniting renewed anger over federal agents' actions. Go home!
Live from ABC News headquarters in New York City, it's Sunday. Good morning, America.
And good morning, America. So great to have you with us this morning. We are following 2 major developing stories. Overnight demonstrations breaking out in several American cities, including New York, Washington, and Los Angeles, following the second deadly shooting this month of an American citizen in Minneapolis at the hands of a federal agent.
Yeah, this latest incident increasing tensions in the city once again and leading to disputed accounts of what happened. We are on the ground in Minneapolis, hearing from the mayor, the governor, and family and friends of the man who was shot, along with federal officials.
And we have major developments there, but we are going to begin here with that massive winter storm making its 2,000-mile trek across the country, now taking aim at the East Coast. We have team coverage, of course, of its path as it delivers dangerous cold, ice, and snow. And we're going to start here with Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z joining us on a Sunday. Ginger.
Yes, good morning. So we're seeing 1 inch per hour snowfall rates from Baltimore to Philadelphia to New York City throughout the morning hours. That's what's going to add up so quickly and make travel really difficult. Not that it already has not been if you go back to the south and west. The northern fringe of this on the radar here to Detroit and Chicago, but the heaviest snow is falling just north of that pink line over to Washington, D.C. It's about that freezing rain, though, encasing everything back to Mississippi and Louisiana this morning. This morning, snow, ice, and frigid temperatures sweeping across the nation. 20 states under a state of emergency. That's more than 190 million Americans with some sort of winter weather alert. From Kansas to Tennessee, snow first blanketed major roads Saturday. In St. Louis, Missouri, several cars and semi-trucks crashed, spilling cargo all over the road. Similar scenes on Interstate 44. City firefighters battling this fire in sub-zero wind chills. People that were evacuated were moved to warming shelters. In Tennessee, officials warning of dangerous travel as freezing rain and sleet now accumulate.
This is just turning back to ice. Please stay off the roadways.
In Nashville, watch as the city bus slides off the road, narrowly missing 2 crashed cars and knocking down a utility pole. Crews in Oklahoma working diligently to de-ice roads and restore power lines.
We'll just keep going around the clock, and as the snow falls, we'll continue to plow.
In Texas, cars stuck along the Woodall-Rogers Freeway in downtown Dallas after the Dallas Mavs game let out Saturday night. The cold air over the warmer water in the Guadalupe River creating steam. Freezing rain encasing cars, roads, and sidewalks in Florence, Alabama. And that accumulating ice is where we expect power outages.
You'll start to see things such as the cross arms break, even pole tops can tumble when you get around that inch of accumulation on the line.
The biggest threat right now continues to be the ice.
This storm is just getting started in the Northeast for a messy Sunday ahead. State leaders urging people to stay inside.
Please stay off the road as best you can. Philadelphia, snow now and snow for the next 5-6 hours before the wintry mix cuts in. You could also see wind gusts up to 25 miles per hour, so it's tough to see around there. We've got ice storm warnings in place from Austin back to Kerrville, Texas, all the way through Mississippi, where we're seeing a lot of pictures just come in. And then worried about the 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of ice still to come in parts of western South Carolina, North Carolina, and northeast Georgia. But obviously the winter storm warnings go all the way up into New England, where we anticipate some of the biggest snow totals, easily in excess of 1.5 feet. So let's go ahead and break it down. The travel's going to be the big problem. I know we keep saying don't go out, but we keep seeing pictures come in of people out. So unless you're a first responder or you've got a job that you've got to get to, and thank you if you're a hospital worker, by the way, we do see more in the way of impacts from Mississippi through Kentucky, North Carolina. But up here, that's where the major impacts are. And you notice that Boston is now in that purple area. That purple area is where we anticipate extreme impacts going through today and tonight. And just to note, guys, we're going to be talking tornado threat later today, Gio.
It's all very concerning. Ginger, thank you for that. And we are going to turn now to our other top story here this morning. The breaking developments in Minneapolis. Another deadly shooting involving federal agents. The shooting sparking new protests overnight. You see them right there. This morning, federal and local officials again have very different accounts of what happened here. And ABC's Trevor Ault is live there in Minneapolis this morning. Trevor, good morning.
Good morning, Gio. And there were protesters out deep into the night here as there's now a memorial growing at the site of this shooting. And once again, there are direct contradictions between what federal officials are claiming and what eyewitnesses to the shooting are claiming. Now, we want to be clear, it's not yet certain what happened in the minutes leading up to those shots being fired, but the shooting itself is on video. It is graphic, but you can see for yourself what happened.
Overnight unrest and anger in Minneapolis after federal agents shot and killed another person.
Graphic video from the scene obtained by Drop Site News shows a man in a struggle with agents resisting being shoved to the ground and hit. It appears his gun is removed by one of the agents. According to a witness affidavit, at least 4 agents pointed guns at him. The same witness saying the man shot had at least 3 bullet wounds in his back.
I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death. How many more residents?
Minneapolis police have now identified that man as 37-year-old Alex Preddy, an American citizen and Minneapolis native who worked as an ICU nurse for the Department of Veterans Affairs. Preddy seen here reading the final salute for a fallen veteran.
Today we remember that freedom is not free. We have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it.
Local authorities say Preddy was a lawful gun owner with a license to carry and no criminal record. Minnesota has an open carry gun law, which requires a permit. Video shows Preddy intervene trying to help a woman the agents had surrounded. He appears to be holding a phone as he is pepper sprayed and wrestled to the ground, which he resists. The video does not appear to show him drawing the gun at any point. Now, Governor Tim Walz says the state will not be stonewalled by the Trump administration as they investigate the shooting.
Thank God we have video, because according to DHS, these 7 heroic guys took an onslaught of a battalion against them or something. It's nonsense, people. It is nonsense and it's lies.
According to an affidavit, a doctor witnessed the shooting from a nearby apartment and says that at first agents would not let him through to help before one agent eventually agreed to let him assess the victim. According to the affidavit, the doctor says he was confused as to why Preddy was lying on his side, which is not standard practice when a victim has been shot. The doctor added ICE agents appeared to be counting Preddy's bullet wounds. Border Patrol officials say the shooting happened while conducting a targeted operation for a person in the country illegally. They claim Preddy approached Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun seen here, along with 2 magazines, and say he violently resisted their attempts to disarm him.
We will not allow violence against our law enforcement officers.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem insists the agent fired defensive shots.
This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
So far, they've provided no evidence supporting those claims.
There's been demonstrators out here since this shooting first happened, sometimes thousands at a time. The fires are to stay warm in the sub-zero temperatures. And we know there's been protests happening every day in Minneapolis since Renee Good was shot 2.5 weeks ago.
The Minneapolis community coming together in a candlelight vigil overnight. Neighbors, friends, and family gathered outside Preddy's home.
His neighbor, speaking to ABC News, remembering the 37-year-old.
He was very well thought of. It's difficult to square that impression that everybody on this block had, and with this notion that he was somehow on some sort of suicide mission to inflict damage on ICE.
And his father telling the Associated Press his beloved son cared about people deeply and was very upset with what was happening in Minneapolis, adding he had discussed the protest with his son recently.
We had this discussion with him 2 weeks ago or so, that go ahead and protest, but do not engage. And he said he knows that. He knew that.
And ABC News has also learned the FBI agent who was assigned to investigate that fatal shooting of Renee Good has now stepped down from the FBI. What sources say is that they initially began a civil rights investigation, but they were told to reclassify it, and that led that agent to resign. Janae?
All right, Trevor, thank you so much for your reporting. Now to the Trump administration's response to the second fatal shooting this month of an American citizen in Minneapolis at the hands of a federal agent. ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang is in Washington. Good morning, Selena.
And good morning to you, Janae. In the wake of this shooting, President Trump is defiant. Even as investigators are still trying to piece together exactly what happened, the president and his team, well, they've been quick to reach conclusions of their own. President Trump is defending the officers and accusing Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry and Governor Tim Walz of, quote, inciting insurrection. Top White House officials are claiming, without providing evidence, that the ICU nurse who was shot and killed was a domestic terrorist who wanted to cause maximum damage. And all of this, guys, before there's even been time for an investigation. So for some context here, this is now the third shooting in Minneapolis in less than 3 weeks involving federal agents. And in each case, the Trump administration has rushed to claim that the agents were under threat and that the shootings were justified. Now, Governor Walz says he spoke to the White House and made it clear that the federal government cannot be trusted to lead this investigation, saying that the state will handle it. And all of this also comes just days after Vice President J.D. Vance traveled to Minnesota. He met with local officials to try and lower the temperature. And just this week, Whit, Trump acknowledged that ICE officers will sometimes make mistakes and go too far.
All right, Selena Wang for us. We appreciate it. Let's bring in ABC's chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky. And Aaron, you've been looking into how authorities are trained to respond in these types of situations.
And this morning, with police leaders are raising questions about training, accountability, and the use of lethal force, which is only supposed to be deployed to stop a threat. Once that threat is neutralized, an officer is supposed to stop firing. There are differences, though, between police officers and federal law enforcement officers in training and experience. Police officers are trained in de-escalation and non-lethal weapons. They also have experience in crowd control and high-intensity situations that federal agents often lack. There's another key difference. Anytime a police officer is involved in a deadly shooting, there is almost always an independent investigation to determine whether it was justified. In Minneapolis, we have seen the Department of Homeland Security prefer to focus on the deceased. So the Border Patrol officer in this case may not be held to account. In fact, Gio, the FBI agent who was initially assigned to investigate the shooting of Renee Good resigned after he was told to reclassify what had been a civil rights investigation.
Unbelievable. Okay, so if there is no credible investigation here, there's a real concern there.
There are concerns because there may be legitimate reasons for what happened. After all, the victim in this case did approach, permit or not, federal officers while carrying a gun. But the public is going to want to know, for example, whether the Border Patrol officer acted out of fear for his safety or out of anger. For years, law enforcement agencies have been trying to convince the public they deserve their trust and are working on the community's behalf. We have spoken to a number of police leaders this morning who worry those efforts are suffering a setback because of what's playing out on the streets of Minneapolis.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much for your reporting. We appreciate you. Now we want to get back to that massive winter storm that is impacting so much of the country and expanding east. So let's go to ABC's Victor Oquendo, who joins us live from Nashville, where that storm is bringing a dangerous coating of ice this morning. Victor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Janae. It was a very long night for many across Tennessee. This freezing rain, it has been relentless for hours now. We are right on Broadway, the most famous street in town, lined with bars and restaurants. But this morning, it is an icy, slushy mess. And this is a road that has been treated. Many of the side streets, residential and rural areas, did not get treated, likely frozen overnight. Authorities in Tennessee warning drivers to stay off the roads, but if you absolutely have to drive, watch out for the black ice. It's hard to see and very dangerous. This winter storm threatening the area all day as more ice moves in. A small amount can do a ton of damage to trees and power lines, knocking out power. At last check, statewide, more than 150,000 customers already without power, and crews will not be able to restore power until it is safe to do so. Whatever ice does accumulate, it will be lingering for days as this dangerous cold lasts through Tuesday. Whit.
All right, Victor Oquendo for us. And now to Texas, where ice from this storm has left tens of thousands without power. ABC's Morgan Norwood is in Dallas now. Morgan, what are the conditions like now?
Yeah, Whit, good morning to you. A real mess here. We are in downtown Dallas, and you can just see this road covered in a thin layer of snow, but underneath it is that hard, rock-solid, hard ice, and that has been the main problem for so many drivers. I want to show you this video. I know Ginger just talked about it, but since we are in that area where all of this just happened last night, fans were stranded. Cars backed up along the eastbound Woodall-Rogers Freeway here in downtown after the Mavericks game against the Lakers. And law enforcement all across the state, they have been responding to dozens of crashes, including this one involving a snowplow and a semi-truck. The bitter cold has also been taking a toll beyond the roads. Just north of here in Trophy Club, a 14-inch water main ruptured, flooding streets, forcing crews to shut down service, even as they scramble to make repairs. That is still ongoing this morning. And the power outages are mounting. More than 80,000 here in Texas, 70,000 customers in the dark in Louisiana, with crews waiting for conditions to improve so that they can get the bucket trucks in the air to get the lights back on. But for so many Texans, this cold reignites memories of that deadly 2021 ice storm that collapsed the state's power grid. State leaders say this time is different. The grid is holding, but the message is clear this morning. Stay off of the roads. The storm may have moved out, but the ice is still sticking around, Gio.
And that ice is very, very dangerous. Morgan, thank you for your reporting there from Dallas. We're going to turn now to the storm's next target as it moves east, and ABC's Alex Prochet is in Reston, Virginia, with what he's seeing right now. It is very icy there, Alex.
Yeah, that's right, Gio. State officials have urged drivers to stay off the roadways, and you see why. I mean, visibility is a major issue. This looks like a dense fog, and you add to that the snow that accumulated on the roadways. It is a very dangerous wintry mix. Now, Virginia was one of at least 20 states to declare a state of emergency in anticipation of this winter storm, and we've seen crews loaded up, strategically staged their pre-treated bridges and roadways. We've also seen plows out and about this morning. Now, the sleet and snow is expected to push through the northern part of the state over the next few hours. In southern Virginia, they are dealing with freezing rain, with the highest ice totals expected along the I-95 and I-85 corridors. Some places expected to get as much as half an inch of ice by tonight. And if you must be out on the roadway, state police, they're urging drivers to use their headlights, also clear any snow or ice from your car, and then drive slow. Leave plenty of room between you and that car in front of you. This also might be a good time to add some extra supplies to your trunk. We're talking about blankets, flashlights, maybe a couple bottles of water, and then also those cell phone chargers. Guys.
Important reminders, Alex. Thank you so much. Now we're going to send it back over to Ginger, who is in on a Sunday for more on this monster storm now expanding to the northeast. Ginger.
Yes. So New York City, Central Park now saying that we have freezing fog and the snow at the same time. And that makes sense because this is the Statue of Liberty camera. You can't see anything. We could see one gust of 30 miles per hour. We've got about 7 hours left of snow, and then the wintry mix would take over. So by late morning, I also want to point out Tallahassee into parts of Mobile, southwest Georgia, southeastern Alabama, tornado threat today. So that's the southern end of it. We still will see some freezing rain on the southern side, but you see how we stopped the clock there, 3 p.m.? That's when, say, JFK, parts of Long Island, start to get that sleet. That's going to cut down totals closer to the coast down to Philadelphia, certainly along the Connecticut shore and Rhode Island. But Boston, Western Massachusetts, the Berkshires, you stay in the snow. All the way back to Pittsburgh, you stay in the snow. A little puff of snow Monday morning, but most of this precipitation is done by midnight tonight. We still are concerned about power outages as more ice is adding up in Mississippi or western South and North Carolina. But the heaviest snow, Hudson Valley, back up into, again, the Berkshires, northern Rhode Island. You can see where that snow stays snow. And I do want to mention one other big part of this storm is once it's all out of here, we're going to be talking about the cold. By Monday morning, we could be sub-freezing as far south as Brownsville, Texas. You could see records broken tomorrow morning anywhere covered in a circle there, from Shreveport to Little Rock to Springfield. So that's where you're going to have major problems, is that we're going to stay sub-freezing here in New York for weeks. And that's the look at next weekend. Look at that. Well below average. Part of the problem with this storm is that it takes time to play out. So freezing rain takes time to accrete or add up, right? So some people are waking up in the Mid-South or Southeast, they're like, not so bad. It's not done. So just let it be done and let that ice accumulate and then get taken care of, and then you can head out once we're clear.
It is so important to stay tuned and get all of the information. The three of us are heading out to cover the storm right after the show. It's just critical that people stay indoors and listen to those warnings.
And thank goodness you're going on a train, Janae.
I am up to Boston, so we will have this storm all covered. Ginger, thank you.
Thank you, Ginger. All right, still ahead here, new tariff target. President Trump threatens a 100% surcharge on Canadian goods if Ottawa makes a trade deal with China.
Plus, NBA rivalry week, the big games overnight, including the Luka Doncic grudge match against the Mavericks.
And championship weekend in the NFL. 4 teams are playing. Only 2 will make it to Super Bowl 60. ESPN's coach Herm Edwards joins us with the preview. Welcome back to GMA on this Sunday morning. All eyes on the weather as we take a live look at conditions here in Cleveland, Philadelphia, Memphis, and Indianapolis. You can see the white in each of those pictures. We will get a check of the forecast from Ginger in a minute as the snow is already falling in so many cities. But first, let's take a look at some of the other big stories that we're following on this Sunday morning. President Trump threatening Canada with a 100% tariff. Trump did not specify which deal he's referring to, but Canadian leaders responded Saturday saying that they are not pursuing a free trade agreement with China.
An eruption at Hawaii's Mount Kilauea volcano causing a hazard for people down below. Towers of lava shot more than 1,000 feet in the air on Saturday. The eruption sent ash and chunks of volcanic rock raining down inside Volcanoes National Park. Park officials closed off summit access and visitors were evacuated from park grounds as conditions worsened.
Tax season is upon us. Starting Monday, the IRS will start accepting federal income tax filings. The deadline to file returns and pay any taxes is April 15th.
The Los Angeles Lakers pull off a comeback win over the Dallas Mavericks. The Lakers stepped up the defense and closed a 15-point deficit in the fourth with roughly 7 minutes on the clock. Luka Doncic, back in his old stomping grounds, fueled the rally, finishing with 33 points. Lakers won 116-110.
We do start this half hour with more on our top story, the latest shooting involving federal agents in Minneapolis. The death of Alex Preddy sparking new protests overnight against the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Video of this shooting is graphic and may be difficult to watch. People on the scene recording part of the confrontation, showing a man in a struggle with agents, then taken to the ground. An officer suddenly opens fire in the chaos, leaving the man lifeless on the ground. Protesters remained at the scene for several hours, finally being dispersed as federal agents fired tear gas. So joining us now is KSTP reporter Eric Rasmussen, who's been reporting from the scene and was part of our special coverage last night. Eric, thanks so much for joining us once again. We appreciate it. First, just tell us about the chaotic moments right after the shooting when you arrived and how the protest played out overnight.
All right, we're very quiet here now, but that was not the case less than 24 hours ago. When we arrived on scene just a couple of hours after that deadly shooting, we were standing right where I am right now, a photographer and I getting ready for our very first live report. You had a line of protesters and a line of federal officers in riot gear. But as calm as a protest like that can be, we didn't get a sense of anything urgently about to happen. But then it all changed in an instant. You know, even before I could put this gas mask on, those federal officers started firing off the tear gas and chemical agents and some projectiles, and we were sent running along with all the protesters right down this street. I've covered a lot of protests over the years, and unfortunately quite a few here in Minneapolis, and that was like something not quite like anything I'd experienced. Really got a face full of that gas and got a sense of what people have been dealing with here in Minneapolis as these protests play out.
Yeah, we're glad that you and your crew are okay after all of that. And I was there in Minneapolis after the shooting of Renee Good. You've been there day after day. How would you describe the tension and the reaction in Minneapolis now after this second deadly shooting in less than a month?
Yeah, it does seem sort of cumulative, right? We've been seeing the protests, the outrage build and build after Renee Good was killed, sort of waves of protest. But then on a Saturday morning, to have another deadly shooting at the hands of federal officers, people were out here in mass, and I got a real sense of outrage, not just for that one incident, but everything that this city's been going through. And, I had a chance to talk to a handful of the people that were coming out here demonstrating, young men, women, older folks, kind of a cross-section of the community. A lot of them told me they were from here in Minneapolis, including a woman right down the street. Talked to a military veteran who said this is not what he wanted to see here in his country.
Eric Rasmussen, once again, thank you so much for your time. A late night and early morning. We truly appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Let's talk a little bit more about staying safe in this storm. So what's your biggest concern? That ice?
That's the thing, is the ice, and obviously travel in the places that don't have the ways to keep, because it's going to be cold for days, right? So even if it's Dallas or Arkansas and the precipitation's ending, you want to really emphasize that ice. It only takes a 1/4 inch of ice, by the way, to add 500 pounds of weight to a power line.
Wow.
Yes, so they are going to be widespread areas out of power. Already we're seeing some of those numbers. There will be freezing temperatures after that stay for a day or 2 or 3, depending on where you are. So to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning is key, because we see this almost every big winter storm that goes into the Mid-South and Southeast. Never use generators that are placed outside, or don't put them inside, obviously. We do see people do that. Grills, obviously, don't bring those in. Don't open those, and do open your windows and vents to make sure that it gets out. Make sure your battery-powered CO, or the carbon monoxide detectors, are working, because that happens a lot in these storms. That is an odorless gas. Symptoms of the poisoning include dizziness, headache, nausea, confusion, and then carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide poisoning can be fatal. And they can help make sure that your frozen food, by the way, is good to eat. This is a tip that you always see online, but in case you haven't seen it and it hasn't gone out yet, go freeze a tiny little, Tupperware of water and then put a coin on top. If that coin sinks, it means that your freezer has lost power at some point, and the food may need to be thrown away. So just so you don't get sick on top of all this mess.
Yes.
Really important.
All right. Ginger, thank you so much. Still coming up here on Good Morning America, the teams going head-to-head today in the battle to get to the Super Bowl. Our guy, Herm Edwards, looks at who may have the edge. Welcome back to GMA. In the race to the Super Bowl, the NFL Conference Championships today decide which teams get to the big game. So much is on the line today, and our friend and former coach, ESPN football analyst Herm Edwards, is here with the preview. Good Sunday to you, Coach. Hope you're staying warm. Let's start in the AFC with the Denver Broncos. They're hosting the New England Patriots. What should fans be watching out for in this game?
Well, I think if you're looking at the Patriots, you wonder how May is going to play this week. Last week he struggled some. We saw that. He's facing a defense that can really rush the quarterback. The Denver Broncos lead the league in sacks. They have 68 sacks. So they're going to have to get him started early against this Denver group, because this Denver Broncos bunch has a really good defense. And they're going to have to play defense because they're playing with a quarterback that hadn't played since 2003 instead of them. So they know they've got to keep the score close so they have a chance to win this football game.
Okay, Coach, let's go over to the NFC. So it's the LA Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. It's the third meeting this season between the two teams. So who takes the rubber match?
Well, look, it's been one of those games where if you look at the last one they played, it was, 31-27 or something like that, a high-scoring affair. When you think about it, both these teams know each other very well. They played each other twice. They split. I look at it this way. What quarterback is very calm in the pocket is this guy, Matthew Stafford. And he has that guy to throw to, Puka. He has Adams. He has Higbee, Parkinson. Between those 4 guys, he's thrown 35 touchdown passes. The weather, the weather will be pretty good. Matthew Stafford, even when it's snowing, it seems like this guy can throw the football. Remember, Matthew Stafford in the beginning of the season, they didn't even know if he was going to play. He had some back problems. They thought this might be his not be able to play this year. Well, now he's 1 game away from being in the game that he's played in before, the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and MVP candidate as well, people were talking about. Also, it's been a wild offseason for head coaching changes. The latest was Buffalo, where the Bills fired Sean McDermott after 9 Super Bowl-less seasons, not making it there. So was the firing, you think, justified, Coach, and who would be a good fit to take over the Bills?
Well, I'm always sticking up for coaches, and I say no. I think we get spoiled sometimes when we win and we don't get to that big game, that Super Bowl game. We get upset. Winning is hard in this league. I think he's a fabulous football coach. I think he's a defensive-minded coach. Will they go after an offensive guy now? And you know what? And the quarterback might have something to say about that. When you look at this personnel of the Buffalo Bills, think about the Buffalo Bills this way, offensively. When they break the huddle, you fear 2 players on their football team, offensively, Josh Allen and the runner. That's what they got. Those are the guys you're nervous about. Other than that, they got good players, but those are the 2 guys that make you nervous. They've got to do something to build this roster up offensively so Josh Allen doesn't have to put his cape on every week and play like he's Superman.
Yep, a lot of changes coming in this offseason. Meantime, we're gearing up for the Super Bowl, getting excited. Coach, it's great to have you as always. We'll talk to you soon.
That winter storm is sweeping its way east. Nearly 200 million Americans are on alert this morning, and ABC's Alex Brachet is in Reston, Virginia, with the conditions out there. It is looking very snowy. Alex, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Gio. Yeah, Western Virginia waking up like much of the country to these icy conditions and low visibility. More than 190 million Americans are waking up with this winter weather alert from New Mexico to Maine. And already we've seen snow totals in places like Oklahoma City. They're at 5 inches there. In Wichita, Kansas, they're at nearly 6.5. And the I-95 corridor from D.C. to Boston will see snow totals rise throughout the day and into the evening. And in the South, we are tracking nearly 300,000 customers without power, 82,000 of them in Texas, and this could be life-threatening for those that don't have heat during this dangerous deep freeze. Now, many are reminded of that February storm in 2021 that killed at least 240 people in Texas. State officials say that they are much better prepared to handle the winter weather this go-around. And back here in Virginia, we've seen crews out. They're plowing the roads, and that is because there are some areas here that are expected to see up to ½ an inch of ice. They are urging people to stay off the roads.
Yeah, so important. Alex Brachet for us, thank you. Let's get right to Ginger for more on this massive storm, and we got a long way to go, Ginger.
We sure do. It's going to be a long Sunday. Things will be better on Monday, but the temperature's not, which I'll talk about. Seaside Heights, New Jersey, the boardwalk, snow on it, and there will be more where that came from, but then you're going to have that rain-snow line come over, so the wintry mix is going to cut down on totals for the Jersey Shore, in part. I just wanted to give a big shout out to first responders, line people that are out there doing their work, and obviously anybody in the hospital system. I know a lot of people are trying to get to work today, and we thank you for that, because there will be impacts, big, major impacts all the way. It's going to be really tough to travel around in the Northeast, anywhere in red, especially. Boston, that's purple. You're in the extreme impacts. And then anything that falls and has fallen in Arkansas or Mississippi, where we're seeing that ice encase the trees, it's going to stick around for a while because we've got freezing temperatures. I just want to take you through time. This is by January 29th. In New York City, we could stay sub-freezing all the way through February 4th at least, Gio.
That is unbelievable. All right, Ginger, thank you so much. Now with our play of the day, and check this out, because we have cheers for American climber Alex Honnold after he conquered one of the tallest buildings in the world. Honnold scaled Taipei 101 in a free climb without ropes, without a safety net. Look at that right there. The skyscraper is more than 1,600 feet tall. Honnold reached the very top in just 90 minutes, which was unbelievable. Everybody's saying he was like way ahead schedule. He says that he hopes this climb inspires people to chase their goals. I was watching this live. I was texting you.
Yeah.
It was like heart-stopping.
Do you know who's
watching
going to
all of
be really moved by this? Tom Cruise.
He's going to be like, you know what? I'm next.
Next Mission Impossible.
That is unbelievable.
This gives me anxiety just
right?
Well, and I was thinking the whole time, because remember, I scaled down the Empire State Building.
That's right.
Yes,
but I had
you had a whole lot holding you.
See, I was more like the camera guy who was hanging there. Yeah.
Hanging there with a hope and a dream. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. Be safe, stay warm.
Yes, absolutely.
Do it, Tom.